I'm in Robins Bay in St. Mary, which is located on the north coast of Jamaica. Robins Bay is most known for strawberry fields together and Tacky Falls. Today I'll be going to Robins Bay Beach, where I'll be telling you all you need to know about the 2024 5-door Jimny GL. Timestamps are in the description so you can check out the part of the review that interests you the most. I've also covered off-road angles, heritage, and driving characteristics of the Jimny in other posts with links in the description. Now let's dive into the cabin and get into this review. Alright, so this is the interior of the 5-door Jimny, and if you know what the 3-door Jimny looks like, you would think you are in one, except if you had a keen eye and you looked at the infotainment system and the digital display in the gauge cluster, because the digital display in the gauge cluster in the 3-door is yellow, at least here in Jamaica, and the infotainment system doesn't quite look like this. So this particular trim, it's the auto, it doesn't have cruise control, and you have access to hands-free, so buttons are basically the same. There's Google coming up asking me how she can help. There you go. So this is how you'd end your call. This is how you would answer your call. This is the info, and this is everything to do with your average fuel economy, your range, average speed, driving time, and then if you want to see the trip, there's trip A, trip B, and you're going back to your general trip. The display also shows the drive or the gear that you're in. We're in P, foot on the brake, reverse, neutral, D. But something cool with this particular Jimny, when you go into reverse, you get a backup camera. And because you have rear bumper sensors, when you get to this yellow line, it actually starts to make a beep. And the closer you get to the red line, it beeps a lot more. So I think that's a neat feature. Some might say that it's not necessary with the size of the Jimny, but if you're moving from the shorter Jimny to the longer Jimny, you might, because it's so similar, you might just jump in it and drive it in the same way, and you might misjudge it a little. So I welcome it. So this isn't the top trim, so you won't have the digital display here with the dial right here like you would have in the top trim Jimny, but basic AC unit controls 0 turns it off, and 1, 2, 3 increase in intensity, cold, hot. We never want to go hot in this country. Where you want the AC to blow on you, and if you want to recirculate or pull in from outside. Here you have your window similar to the 3-door Jimny. It opens and closes the driver's side window, and this one opens and closes the passenger side window. The rear passenger window is down. It's for your left passenger, your right passenger, and you press this if you have children at the back and you don't want them to be able to wind the windows down at the back. This is your winder button at the back. So this is from the 3-door Jimny. Storage space is very similar for this phone. Is an A54, so you can Google the dimensions and see what that's like. You have a USB charger, which with the 3-door Jimny for Android Auto it was wired, so I would have to plug it in, whereas with this 5-door Jimny it's wireless, so I don't need to plug it in, and I'm still connected. As you can see, there's my Spotify, my Waze, everything pops up like that, which I think is really a neat touch, not to have to connect it. You can use the car to charge something else. Here's your 12-volt socket for a dash cam. Quite a nice touch actually. Now we're going to move on to the 4-wheel drive system. A lot of people see this lever and think that you can actually use it on road. This is only to be used off-road. So right now we're in 2 high, and 2 high powers the rear wheels. This is important to note that when you're on sealed surfaces like concrete, like asphalt, you are to keep it in 2 high. Now when you want to move it in 4 high, you can do this on the fly, meaning while you're driving, And the only caveat is that you have to keep your steering wheel straight while you shift it, and I believe this is up to 80 kilometers an hour. Now when you're in 4 high, just put it in neutral, put the handbrake down, foot on the brake. I'm in 4 high, pull it in, and you will see this indicator pop up. It means that your vehicle is in 4-wheel drive and you're sending power to both front and the rear of the vehicle. Now this is for gravel, loose sand, wet grass, stuff of that nature, shallow mud, that kind of vibe. But if you were to go in deep mud, deep sand, stuff of that nature, deep snow even, then you go into 4 low. So push down, pull back, and then you're going to see that your traction control is off in conjunction with the 4-wheel drive sign being on. Now with this, you have to park the car to then put it in 4 low, put the car in neutral, and handbrake down, and you do your thing. Let's put it back out of 4 low into 4 high. Always important to look at the gauge to know that once you have switched, that you are actually in or out of 4-wheel drive, because you don't want to drive this on a sealed surface and it's off. One way to try and ensure that you are actually out of 4-wheel drive is really to put it in reverse, step on the gas a little, just to ensure that the system is out of 4-wheel drive. Now in this particular Jimny, you have 2 airbags, driver, passenger. Now if you were to get the top spec Jimny, you would get 6 airbags. So you would get driver, passenger, that's 2. You get side airbags, 1 for the driver, 1 for the passenger, so that's 4. And then you get side curtain airbags, so they deploy downwards for the driver and the passenger, and the front passenger and the rear passenger. So I do think in this day and age where we have cars that accelerate really rapidly, can achieve higher speeds, that you get the Jimny that gives you the most bang for your buck safety wise. So there's one caveat with the crash test rating, is that this vehicle doesn't have one because it hasn't been crash tested by any of the NCAPs. And NCAP simply stands for New Car Assessment Program. So I can't give you a crash test rating. It is, however, based on the 3-door Jimny, which scored a 3-star safety rating. So hopefully it will match that or do better. Alright, so let me show you guys the new infotainment system setup now. So this is basically what your main page looks like. You have your average fuel economy. So while you're driving, you have a choice of looking here, getting your information here, or you can get it here. So this is instantaneous fuel economy in kilometers per liter. Tells you your driving range and your average right now. This is your mileage or your range for the past trips that you've done. You have your refuel, which I think is a decent touch. It's much bigger, so if you have, if your eyesight isn't the best, you don't necessarily want to look here, you can bring it up on the screen here. And you have your vehicle alert, so if your door is open and you move off and you're not aware of it here, you're not looking here, it will come up on the infotainment system. Same thing for your parking brake, your seat belt, and if you have low fuel, you'll have a yellow light coming up here on your instrument cluster, but if you don't see that, you'll see it up here, which I think is a nice touch. So this is how you get to your alerts, and you can say which one you want on. Keep everything on. Nothing wrong with a little redundancy in the system. So you can edit your home screen. I'm not going to edit it. It's not my vehicle. And this is how you play with the settings. So your display, your brightness, your contrast, the wallpaper, time and date, language. You can lock the keypad while driving, so you're not being distracted while you're driving. So scroll through steering wheel controls. Attenuate volume during reverse. There's a quick guide. You have your time and your date. You can sync with your GPS. If you're in a region where you have daylight savings, you can utilize daylight savings. The song is playing, but clearly I don't want a copyright strike. This basically exhausts all these settings. If you want to make a phone call, your phone book will come up. If you want the voice access, that will come up, but you could just really pull and you get the same thing. So I think it's a nice touch. You tap this once to put on the screensaver so you know what time it is. When you're driving, if you don't want anything up here to be distracting, you press that button once to mute it, and this is your volume up, volume down. You tap it again to have access to your screen. This is basically infotainment system in a nutshell, and I find infotainment system to be more responsive than the model that it's replacing. So I like this infotainment system. It's faster and it's decent. No problems at all. Now, something that is really interesting is that you have this parking sensor. You can turn it off if you want, and I can see a reason for why you'd want to turn the parking sensor off. If you're going off-road and you're going very close to various objects, you would probably find it annoying just hearing it ping. Although I think that would be a plus off-road. But you just have the option to turn it off. So here you go. And this is you turning it back on. That's that beep you heard. So this is my driving position, this setup right here. I'm gonna go in the back and show you guys what it's like with me being there. It's weird having a door behind the driver's seat. Like if you own a 3-door like I do, you'd know that it's pretty weird. So, but it's welcomed. So this is my driving position. I'm 5'9". On a good day, I'm 5'10". So on a good day, if I wear the right shoes, and this is the knee room that I have. It's a bit close, but it's something that you can work with, especially if you're doing a highway run. It's not necessarily the best vehicle to do a highway run in because it is a purpose-built 4x4. It first started in, I believe, 1980s, and that's all that heritage worked up or worked through this vehicle throughout the generations. So you have to keep that in mind when you buy a vehicle like this. You are buying a properly purpose-built 4x4. But on a highway run, I could see you being okay in this, say on a 2.5-hour drive, a 2-hour drive, but being able to carry passengers with more comfort to a trail, this is where I see the advantages of this being here. I think it makes sense. You can fit 2 people side by side here and not feel too crammed or anything like that. It's on a bench, so you do sit a bit higher up than the driver, which aids in visibility, aids in comfort as well, so you get that extra leg room. Visibility for the passenger is fine. Yeah, and if you have anything in the trunk you want to reach around, you can reach around. It's a setup that works. Yeah, I'm okay with it. Now, you also have your ISOFIX points for your kiddos. Can fit 2 car seats here. But let's go around the back. Let's see how much we can actually hold in the trunk. But before we do that, let's talk about storage here. You still have your 2 cup holders here. And you have these little pouches here on the back of either seat, the driver's seat and the passenger seat. No more storage around here. This is really all you get. And my headroom, I didn't mention that. I'm 5'9". So if this is me sitting with proper posture, this will give you an idea of how much headroom you'd have if you were, say, 6 feet tall. You have your grab handles here. So let's go around the back, see how much space you have, see what we're working with. All right, so let's see what the trunk space is like. Pretty cool feature here. You just leave the tailgate to open. Some might not like the fact that the tailgate doesn't open all the way. It actually opens to a little bit of a degree. Like this is it, it's stuck. But this is what we've carried here on this little trip. It's pretty much usable space. I find that this little area right here You could pack it to the brim with 2 suitcases and some carry-ons. It makes the Jimny usable. Now you have a light here. Pull it here, light comes on, turn it off, lights off. You have a charging port here. Same charging port in the 3-door Jimny. You don't have any lights on this side. And then you have your top tethers for your little kiddos. And if you want to fold the seat forward, just push this up. Once you see the red here, why won't you work? I didn't push it all the way in. There you go, push it all the way in. And do the same on the other side. And there you go, you have more space. Now, what would be curious, or what is curious rather, is that you have a ledge here. So it doesn't fold flat like it would in the 3-door Jimny. So let's pull this back up, hook in again, and that's it. Once you don't see the red up, it's locked in, but always push it forward just to check. You have these cutouts that aid in driver visibility, and you won't be able to see from here, but on the instrument cluster, there's a little symbol that's up. Let me walk around and show you. It shows you that the door, or the trunk, is actually open. It will show you more now. So I think that's pretty cool. The trunk is open and the driver's side door is open. So all in all, I think the 5-door Jimny is an improvement to the 3-door Jimny. If you have a family, if you want to be taking friends out, if you want to take people with you in more comfort, I think it absolutely works. If you found this video helpful, please give it a like and share. This really helps the channel out, and if you haven't already subscribed, please consider doing so you don't miss out on any new content. I'll see you in the next one.